record. There we go. Recording in progress. Okay, so yes, we're good. In addition to Yafa Yarkoni and Shoshana Damari, in this early period, we're also going to talk about Lahakat Nachal, which is the performance group, the best known performance group affiliated with the Nachal brigade. Nachal is a Rashi Tevot, a Hebrew abbreviation for Noar Chalutzi Lochem, the fighting pioneering youth. And it was this group that combined their army service with also building agricultural settlements at the time, moshavim and kibbutzim. And in fact, one of the kibbutzim they built was En Gedi, and we're going to hear the song that was sung by Lahakat Nachal about En Gedi. It's very meta. The song that was sung by the Lahakat Nachal about the kibbutz that they had built, or one of them, anyway. So anyway, Yafa Yarkoni, as I said, she's from a family from the Caucasus, but she's born in 1926 in Palestine, which becomes Israel in 1948. She actually she's recruited by the Givati Brigade for Hachishtron, and she becomes this huge star in Israel. And also, by the way, in the late 1950s, after having many hits in Israel, she actually moves to the United States and actually polishes her act as a performer and ends up performing all over the world, not just in Israel as well. She was kind of an early emissary for Israeli pop music. Performing, by the way, you can find on YouTube not only her performing in Hebrew but also in Yiddish and other languages as well. But she performed all sorts of stuff. Ballads, foxtrots, tango, like popular music at the time. She's sort of course, this is all pre-rock and roll at this point. Rock and roll in Israel arrived sort of late. We're going to talk about that in our next session. So we're not going to really get to the rock and roll of Israel yet, and that's a very interesting chapter. We're also going to talk about Mizrahi music as well at a future session. I don't know if we'll be able to squeeze it in next time or the time after that, but we'll see some of the roots of that today as well. So there's Yafa Yarkoni is, again, like I said, biggest Israeli pop star of the period. Shoshana Damari is a close second. She's a Yemenite. She's actually born in Yemen and emigrated to Israel as a baby with her family. But she began performing when she was a teen. She's in the 1930s, and she has a very distinctive voice, this sort of deep alto, and what's interesting about Shoshana Damari is her is the fact that she has a certain appeal because she represents this new Israel, which is at the nexus of the East and the West. And so because she has that Mizrahi, what they used to call Oriental sound, although that's sort of a disfavored term nowadays, but because she has this Eastern sound, she very much represents this kind of fusion that is found in Israeli pop music, which is really quite interesting and appealing. And I got to admit, when I hear Shoshana Damari's voice, it just takes me to a place that nobody else does. So I think that's really great. So I mentioned the rise of these army ensembles. I love Shoshana Damari. If I could be an old Yemenite woman, I would definitely be her. Okay, so rise of the army ensembles. I mentioned Lahakat Nachal, but all of these brigades had their own performance groups, and that was just a primary way for them for the country, for this young country, to scout out talent and recruit them to perform. And again, remember, troops need performances. In fact, by the way, we might make a note of this later when we get to the 70s. The performing for the troops is something that's very important, by the way, in the Israeli public. It's just very much a part of bringing some. It's no fun to be in the army, as my son reminds me on a daily basis. And so the fact that they're performing for the troops is actually quite important and part of the culture of Israel. And again, as we talked about last time, this culture of public singing is very much already a part of Israeli culture from its inception, and so it's already embedded in the culture. And so the idea of these performers being part of the defenders of to make sense. Rise of army in the late 40s and 50s. I mentioned Lahakat Nachal. Lahakat Nachal, by the way, not only has some of the greatest hits of this period. They also produced some of the biggest performers, including, by the way, Chaim Topol is an alum. So is Yossi Dai, a great figure throughout Israeli pop music. The film director Uri Zohar. What's his name? Arik Einstein, who's the greatest one of the greatest rock and rollers of Israeli pop music, will later be a member. In fact, we'll hear if we have time, we'll hear his first song with La Karanacha later. And they have the best writers and composers. So without further ado, let's actually listen to some music. That's why we're all here. So the first piece that I'm going to play you is Yafa Yarkoni. No, sorry, Shoshana Damari. Sorry. This is Hayu Zmanim. The first couple of songs are mostly like army songs or songs about victory, because of course that's what they're all thinking about in the late 40s as Israel's come into being. It's already at war, and so this first song, which is about it's from the War of Independence, and is initially performed by a group called the Chizbaton, which was one of these army groups affiliated with the Palmach. This is the 1950 version recorded by Shoshana Damari. But it's about it's this funny thing where they're all sitting around 50 years later reminiscing about the war, even though, by the way, they're all in the middle of it right now. So here we go. Shoshana Damari. Well, folks online all hear this, right?
יבוא היום ועוד תשב אל מול האב, וגם הגב יהיה כפוף כחטוטרת, ותזכר אז בימיך בפלמ"ח, ותספר אזי אגב עישון מקטרת, ומסביב ומסביב ישב הטף, ואשתך גם היא מופלגת בשנים, תזיל דמעה ותקנח את האף, ותענח היו זמנים, היו זמנים, היו זמנים, אז במשלט ישבנו, היו זמנים, לחמנו ואהבנו, עכשיו דבר אין להכיר, על המשלט יושבת עיר, אולי בזכות אותם זמנים.
So we fought and we loved. And in the position, the fortification where we were, there's now standing a city. Everything's changed, but boy, those were such wonderful times. Hayuz money. They were. No, that's Hebrew. That's Hebrew. Well, and
in there that sounded Yiddish.
Shoshana Damar, and what you might hear if you're listening closely is that because she was Yemenite, she has this Yemenite accent, and so she emphasizes her ayin, something that Ashkenazim don't typically do. Okay, so a similar idea. So and there's something again that's a very, to me, I find that a very moving song. Again, it's sort of reflecting on this future time. Very big theme in Israel is certainly Israeli pop music. Some future time when everything will be wonderful, right? Of course, we know it doesn't always work out that way. This next one, Hamini Yom Yavo, same sort of idea. Believe me, the day will come when I will give you a hug and make you forget everything, all the troubles of this world. This is Yafa Yarkoni. Actually, this is a live performance, I believe.
היום אחות היא מלחמתנו, לכן רחוק אני מכאן, תחוגינה את פגישתנו במטבחנו הכתום, על מקומי שבחרתי הוא תרימי יין לא כוסי, תראיני אילו זה אני הוא יושב איתך כמו תמיד.
האמיני יום יבוא טוב יהיה מבטיח לך, לחבק אותך אבוא והכל אשיח לך. האמיני יום יבוא טוב יהיה מבטיח לך, לחבק אותך אבוא והכל אשיח לך.
So I believe she's performing there with Hachistron, which is this. That's the Leaka, the performance group of the Givati Brigade. As I mentioned before, it's very much a part of the Israeli of the IDF. So next one, this is also Shoshana Damari who's singing. We're gonna skip over Harayot. Again, actually, it's worth hearing the beginning of Harayot. It's notable for the fact Harayot, of course, means fellowship and about camaraderie. This is Hachis Batron of the Palmach. This was Yitzhak Rabin's favorite song. Yitzhak Rabin's favorite song.
כוכבים חרש חרש, את הרוח חולף על הסף, עננים מהלכים על הדרך.
Same sort of instrumentation. It's a accordion, so typical Hungarian.
לא הרגשנו כמעט איך עברו הזמנים
Also sort of marks like this part.
ונותרנו מעט ברבים שאינם כבר בינינו, אך נזכור את כולם, את יפי הבלורית והתואר, כי רעות שכזאת לעולם לא תיתן את ליבנו לשכוח.
Okay, again, I'm trying to give everybody a taste of this without playing the whole song. But again, also very much we're remembering the power of these times. There's a reference there. There's a word that some of us may know, that the word is blorit. Blorit, actually, you're remembering the young boys who had the blorit. It was that you see these old pictures of, like, they all had hair that was really wild on top, it was cut short on the sides. It was like that was the style of the time, you know. Ben Gurion. Oh, has it come back? Really? Ben Gurion, when you see a picture of Ben Gurion from there, he's like, hair's all wild up here, but it's short on the sides. Anyway, that's the blorit. All right. This song, this is Yafa Yarkoni singing Bab El Wad. Bab El Wad, of course, is in today in Hebrew they call it Sha'ar Hagai. Bab El Wad is the Arabic name. They mean the same thing, the gate of the valley. And it is it's an inflection point on the road between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. Remember that Jerusalem is under siege for several months in 48, and they have to open it up. And Bab El Wad is this point where there were very heavy fighting. There was very heavy fighting in order to be able to open up that road. And so what she sings as in the song is. Here I walk silently and I remember them, every single one. Here we fought together over cliffs and boulders. Here we were to one family. Bab El Wad, forever do remember our names as convoys broke through to the city. On the roadsides lie our dead. The iron hulk is silent as my comrade. By the way, if I think there are sculptures are still there as you ascend to Jerusalem at Sha'ar Hagai, Bab El Wad. There are these like there's cars, tanks, and that are yes. So that's the place where this battle happened. This makes me cry.
כביש אספלט שחור, סלעים ורכסים, ערב ואת יורד, רוח ים נושבת, אור כוכב ראשון, מעבר בית מחסים. לנצח זכור נא את שמותינו, שיירות פרצו בדרך אל העיר, בצידי הדרך מוטלים מתינו, שלד הברזל שותק כמו ראי. בבלווה לנצח זכור נא את שמותינו, בבלווה בדרך אל העיר. פה רתחו בשמש זפת ועופרת, פה עברו לילות באש וסכינים, פה שוכנים ביחד עצב ותפארת, משוריין חרוב ושם של אלמונים. בבלווה לנצח זכור נא את שמותינו, שיירות פרצו בדרך אל העיר, בצידי הדרך מוטלים מתינו, שלד הברזל שותק כמו ראי. בבלווה לנצח זכור נא את שמותינו, בבלווה בדרך אל העיר.
Okay, it's just so beautiful. As I said, again, during this period, there emerged these composers who are very skilled at what they're doing. Remember that also what's going on here is they're not just writing pop songs; they're also, in some sense, creating an Israeli identity. I don't know who said life imitates art. There's sort of a feedback loop there, right? On the one hand, they're telling the story of what's going on, but of course, they're also creating this sound and this sense of Israeliness, which is again brand new. Absolutely, definitely, nationalism and pop music are sometimes tied together, but all the more so in the case of Israel. The next song is from the Sinai campaign, Mul Har Sinai, which literally is the title. Literally means facing Mount Sinai, and it was written just around the time as they're completing the Sinai campaign in 1956, and suddenly they control all of the Sinai Peninsula. Of course, they give it back before they reconquer it again. But in any case, this song was performed by Leakat HaNachal at what is referred to as Mount Sinai. I know. Who knows what that place is? It's got a Christian monastery at the top, St. Catherine's, but it's traditionally been referred to as Mount Sinai. I hiked up it. Anyone else been there? It's a fun thing to do. When I went up there, by the way, was with this what seemed like thousands of Italian tourists, and they were just so well dressed, and they were having a lot of fun. Smoking cigarettes and nice shoes, walking up Mount Sinai at 4 a.m. So Mul Har Sinai, Chaim Topol was there, in fact, performing with Leakat HaNachal in 1956. And in the book about Israeli pop music that I mentioned last time, by Dr. Edwin Sarusi, who was my teacher of ethnomusicology, and when I was at Machon Shechter, he quotes Topol as saying, he said, "You would be surprised, but this is Topol. You would be surprised, but all the generals stood and cried as we were performing the song. It was a sublime moment, maybe the greatest moment Leakat HaNachal ever had." So this is Mul Har Sinai.
ולא חלום עובר. הנה מול הר סיני, הסנה בוער.
והוא לוהט בשיר, בגדודי בנים ושערי העיר ביד השמשונים.
בוא שלהבת יא עיני הנערים, בוא שלהבת יא ברעום המנועים. עוד יסופר על זה היום אפי, ושוב העם אל מעמד סיני.
great chorus song. It's got that syncopation and typical for this song.
זה לא חלום ולא חזיון עוזר. מאז ועד היום בוער הסנה.
לא זמרון בלבבות האל של נערי ציון ברכב ישראל. או שלהבת ים בעיני הנערים, או שלהבת ים ברעום המנועים, או יסופר על זה היום בחי בשוב העם אל מעמד סיני.
Okay, all right. Enough of Har Sinai. So again, these military, these victory songs are very much a part of the culture because that's what the population is experiencing now. We're going to move on to a different kind of category of songs, songs which I guess you could only really describe as agricultural. So remember that in addition, so as with the Nachal, you know, again, the goal of the Nachal was to do your army service and to do some kind of commitment to building the land of Israel, building the state of Israel at the same time. And those are the sort of the two things that loom large in the Israeli psyche at the moment. There are other songs as well. We'll get to them, but they're still singing. So it's funny. It's actually kind of cute. And in a later generation, it was actually really the recording of some of these songs are like re-recorded later in a kind of funny, sarcastic way. But at this time, they're very serious about the importance of the sprinkler. Hamam Tera, which is the next song. This is the Hora Mamtera, the Hora of the sprinkler, which again sounds kind of funny and kind of cute, but that's what they were thinking about. Remember how important it is for agriculture in an arid land to be able to actually water your plants. Okay, so this is Shoshana Damari singing Hora Mamtera, and what's great about this song is that you hear in it the sprinkler going around. Okay, all right. This is before the drip, the drip irrigation. That's they haven't gotten there yet. I don't know if there's a song about drip irrigation. It's not as exciting. Okay, all right. Here we go. Hora Mamtera. I love that.
More Hollywood.
Exactly. A little more higher production values.
Sobi mamtera.
Go around. Sprinkle.
رون كيلو أحبت سندور تورك يالك زدار كوشر هم مزمور منها برز العرق بجالو ممتهم مشيبا مرت لحم نجب مامي يوم نجب مامترك عليها صوبي مامترا صوبي مامترا لفازر بنيني أورا صوبي بهاتي مايم اتياري يا باستيرا أتماتي تنبيريا بين جشم ميشامايم جشم ميشامايم أتماتي تنبيريا بين جشم ميشامايم جشم ميشامايم صوبي مامترا.
Okay, enough sprinklers. Moving on.
March.
Yeah.
See the agricultural workers
Oh yeah,
out to the field,
absolutely.
shovels over
And setting up the pipes in the right. Okay, definitely. Again, big theme in Israeli pop music in the early years. Okay, things changed, but okay. Here's another agricultural song. Now this is great. This is Lakara Nachal, Hora He'achzut. The song of He'achzut is basically like settling the land. In this case, they're talking about the vegetables lining up in order. It's sort of like remember they're a military group that also plants stuff. So like the vegetables are all following the command. That's really. So this is the song. There's a later recording by Kaveret from the 1970s. Again, it's sort of like in their case they're doing it tongue in cheek. But this is what 19 what year is this? Hold on, 19. I didn't write it down, but it's the 50s, the early 50s. Okay, Horei Achzut, Katanach.
יודע חקלאי פיקח, והוא הנחיל זאת לצבא, כי את הזן יש לשבח, ולהיטיב בהרכבה, היטיב בהרכבה. ופרט וניל כחשיבולת, ירכיבו החרבות, חמרה המערבולת, יצא הנחל לשדות, הנחל לשדות. הורה כרוב, להורה תרת ענבל, יעלי כידון.
Talking about all the different kinds of vegetables. Hora, it's the cabbage, hora, and the spinach.
לפרד הורה סיירי התות, הורה נחל מסחררת הורה העזות.
יקום חיילי משך זרע, בחקלאי יקלע אל בול. יש נחל שיודע הרע, לזרום כדי לתת יבול.
כדי לתת יבול.
זה פירושו של משק עזר, ככה ייכתב בדוח, כי השקעה של צאן וגזר היא השקעה לזמן ארוך.
כן, כן, לזמן ארוך. הורה כרוב והורה תרת ענבל, יעלי כידון. הורה נחל מסחררת, הורה חסה, הורה צפות, הורה תם. רתום לפרד, הורה סיירי התות. הורה נחל מסחררת, הורה העזות. כאן שיבולים עומדות במתח, כל עת זקוף כמו חייל, והתמצאות יפה בשטח, יוכיחו
Notice it's also the style to go between the different singers again, because the whole team of the whole troop of them, so they trade off with the lead.
כן, כן, חמש חמש. הורה כרוב והורה תרת ענבל, יעלי כידון. הורה נחל מסחררת, הורה חסה, הורה צפון, הורה טנק. רתום לפרד, הורה סיירי התות. הורה נחל מסחררת, הורה העזות.
All right, okay, we got through the whole song. It's only less than 2 minutes, but
I see a cartoon out.
that's right. It could have been Disney would have made a great cartoon out of that. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so there's some agricultural stuff. Related is sort of visions of the land, very very much again also a part of sort of sphere of Israeli pop. And so we've got a song here. Let's see. So this is an interesting one. Hasela Hadom. Hasela Hadom refers to Petra. How many of us have been to Petra? We've been to Petra. Okay, that's a bunch of us. So Petra was it's actually not so far from the Israeli border. It is in Jordan, and if you've been there in recent years, you have to. I mean, when I did it this was 1999, I believe. I had to cross over from Eilat into walk over the border and then get a cab into Aqaba, the Jordanian city, and then get another cab that took us all the way to Petra. But in the 50s, it was kind of a cool thing for kids to sneak across the border. And now if you think about it today, probably not a good idea. Sneak across the border and actually go to Petra to see it. Petra is, of course, the capital of the Nabateans. And it's a ruin for 1,000, 1,500 years, something like that. The Nabateans were miraculous, by the way, in their ability to have been able to live in the desert. It's not clear exactly how they managed it. But in any case, they built this fantastic city. And unfortunately, what would occasionally happen when people did that is that actually they were shot and killed by Jordanian troops. And so this song, I believe it has the distinction of being the first song that was banned from the radio by the Israeli authorities because they didn't want Israelis actually doing this. They wanted to discourage it, so they wanted to sort of tamp down on the temptation by not playing the song by Hasela Adom by Arik Lavi. Hasela Adom, the Red Rock, Petra.
מעבר להרים ולמדבר, אומרות האגדות ישנו מקום, שאיש ממנו חי עוד לא חזר, והוא נקרא הסלע האדום. הסלע האדום, האדום,
1958.
יצא לדרך עם שקיעה, מנגד להטו הרי אדום, חלום ישן מפה ומימייה, לקחו הם אל הסלע האדום. או הסלע האדום, האדום. ראשון הלך גשש מרים פניו, מביט בכוכבים שבמרום,
You hear sort of the horses clopping.
אך המראה אשר ראו עיניו היה מראה הסלע האדום. או הסלע האדום, האדום.
Okay, I think we got a taste of that. Related is the song Engedi, which I mentioned earlier. And Engedi is actually written by. I said earlier it was Le'akat HaNachal. Le'akat HaNachal did create the kibbutz of Engedi in the mid 1950s. In 1959, there were a couple of high school students who were staying there, and inspired by the location. Engedi is, by the way, in case you haven't been there, is a natural spring that's right near. It's down near the Dead Sea. There's a kibbutz there. For a while, they had a maybe they still do a beach on the Dead Sea. The problem, if you've been lately to the Dead Sea, it's drying up, so you have to like take a trolley or whatever from the where the locker rooms are all the way down to where the water is. But in any case, it's from 1959, and again, just a vision of the beauty of the land. The blue sea of death will move softly. Blue sea of death is of course the Dead Sea. Although remember in Hebrew it's not called Yam HaMavet, they call it here Yam HaMavet, the Sea of Death, which is how we call it in English. In Hebrew it's actually Yam HaMelach, the Sea of Salt. Blue Sea of Death will move softly, and above a small cloud will roam. The tamarisk tree will budge in silence, and each line in sand will be engraved pretty. The ground will turn yellow from the scorching of the sun, and choking dust will fly high. But Ein Gedi won't wither with wrinkles. In it a green color and warmth will rule.
ים המוות הכחול בלט ינוע, וממעלה עננה קטנה תשוב.
Got this lazy sense about him sitting out by the sea and strumming a guitar.
יזוע, וכל קו בחול יפך הרוח, האדמה תצהיב בלהט שמש, ואבק מחניק יעוף ברוח. אך אין גדי לא תסבול בכמש, בישלט גוון ירוק וחום. אין גדי, אין גדי, מהים כי צמח בחמה. אין גדי, אין גדי, איך פלאים בחותרים בשממה. אין גדי, אין גדי, בחיופי יפה בכל הוד, והלב יהרהר ויחמוד, והלב יהרהר ויחמוד.
Okay, so there's Engedi. Next thing I want to share with you is so we're going to move on to songs about that are sort of more, shall we say, cultural rather than about land or about the wars and so forth. I'm going to play for you actually a video here. See if we can make this optimized for video clip. And this is Shoshana Damari singing what is her best known song from 1948, Kalaniot. Let's hope this works. All right, here we go. This is in 1940. This is obviously much later. Nonetheless, it's a great song. Anemone.
בא, שקיעה בהר יוקדת. אני חולמת ברות עיניי.
This is just a story about love, about the young woman who brings kalaniot, anemones, to her mother, and then to her lover, who becomes her husband, and then she's a grandmother, and the granddaughter brings her kalaniot as well.
ובשבילים המתכסים בקר, אמא היא נחפזת וקוראת לה, הביטי מה הבאתי לך בשר. כלניות, כלניות, כלניות הדמדמות הדמוניות, כלניות, כלניות, כלניות מטוללות עינניות, שקיעות בהר תבערנה ותדעכנה, אבל כלניות תמיד תברחנה, סופות לרוב תהומנה ותסערנה, אבל כלניות תמיד תבערנה. כלניות, כלניות הדמדמות הדמוניות, כלניות, כלניות, כלניות הן מטוללות עינניות.
Gonna pause there, yeah. Go ahead, yes. Sorry, when I actually don't. Oh,
Somebody else asked you a question over.
no, I don't think so. Were you able to see that by online? Could you see that? Yes, okay, good. Yeah, what was the
With
question?
whom was she performing?
Hold on, let's see if I can, I can't realize. I do not know if someone wants to find that on YouTube, but yeah.
I remember at some point in the last 15, 20 years,
Mhm,
and I don't know if it's contracted,
mhm.
but even well after the Russian immigration to Israel in the 90s,
Yes,
but especially after that, there were something like a dozen symphony orchestras around the state of Israel. So just to challenge our notion of what pop music is, that it's a tiny nation is supporting like something like a dozen symphony orchestras, and these are very high quality. These are not just like, like a band's visit, like that play, like schlumpy guys who show up in the middle of nowhere. And so for many Israelis, even classical music becomes like pop music because of the crossover factor.
correct, fantastic. Yeah, a lot within the Israeli immigration to Israel, many fantastic musicians who came from all over the diaspora. So not only, by the way, not only Western classical music musicians, but of course musicians from the Arabic world as well. They're in and places like Iran, many musicians who because music was always a Jewish business, by the way, in all these places.
Plus, they're freed up from the rigidity of the Soviet system.
Of course,
had to toe the line of the party ideal of what.
Okay, before we get too deep into politics, let's but thank you for that observation. I want something I want to point out. I'm going to play just briefly the next song, although you all know this. It's Erev Shel Shoshanim by the Dudaim. Important stylistically, this their particular style. However, and we all know this. Why? Because not only because it's a beautiful love song, the evening of lilies, let's go out to the grove, and more than some of the sense of all those incense, but also because we still use this in the Musaf Kedusha. By the way, I should say, well, I'm talking, I don't know if everybody online can hear me, but one of my teachers in cantorial school, Cantor Charles Davidson, Lev Shalom, who recently passed away, could not stand the fact that we use Israeli pop tunes that people use Israeli pop tunes in for kedusha. How dare you? The point being, of course, that Jewish music has its own nusach, or synagogue music has its own proper music. So again. Oh, yeah, I'm sure Cantor Dabe did not use Erev Shlosh Shanim for it, but yeah. Of course, because Cantor's are very typical, picky about music. So in any case, you all know that song. Just worth pointing out because it is from 1958, and it is sort of the beginning of the folk wave, which happened, by the way, not just in Israel but in America as well. As you know, groups like the Kingston Trio and so forth. This is a song that you may not know, called Shir Falafel, song about falafel. Every group in the world every culture has its own food, and we have Balanu Yesh Falafel. We have falafel. This is like very.
לכל מדינה כאן בעולם מאכל לאומי המוכר לכולם, וכל ילד בגן יודע כי האוכל מקרוני הוא איטלקי. לאוסטרים בווינה שניצל טעים, והצרפתים אוכלים צפרדעים, הסינים אוכלים אורז דקה, ורזי הקניבלים אוכלים זה את זה. ולנו יש פלאפל, פלאפל, פלאפל. לאבא מתנה, גם אמא כאן קונה, לסבתא הזקנה נקנה חצי מנה, וגם החותנת היום תקבל פלאפל, פלאפל, עם הרבה 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 פלפל.
Lots and lots of pepper. This is sung by the group is called the Ayalon Quartet, 1957. You get the idea. Let's this is now here we have an interesting song that is sung by somebody who went by the name of Filfel al-Misri, Filfel al-Masri, Arabic name. He actually it's not that means, by the way, the pepper from Egypt. Al-Masri, Misr or Masr is Egypt in Arabic, but he wasn't actually Egyptian. He was Iraqi. Go figure. I guess he figured that would be a better name for him. He's singing a sort of a style of song from, this is 1958, and this is again the beginnings of the Mizrahi music. They would not allow actually Arabic music to be played on Israeli radio. It was sort of at the time thought of as the music of the enemy. But Arabic immigrants to Israel, Jewish immigrants from Arabic-speaking countries, they liked their pop music from their countries, and they often took songs that were popular in those countries and put Hebrew words to them. So this is an example of that. This is called Hakol B'Tashlumim, meaning everything on payments, meaning that is the first time that many of these Middle Eastern Jews have encountered credit, and so they would get all their stuff from as it's typical in Israel, you get all their stuff from the makolet, the little store on the corner, and you put it on their list on credit, and then you'd have to pay it off all in payments. So he's talking about the sort of the immigrant experience of learning this whole new economic structure, but it's a cute song that's sort of in this Arabic Hebrew patois. Hakol B'Tashlumim. Arabic instrumentation.
בתשלומים, הכל דבר בתשלומים, בתשלומים. כל המשכורת הולך למכולת, כל המשכורת הולך למכולת, איי 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 בתשלומים.
It wasn't Israeli soul, it was based in the times.
כל יום אשתי קונה שמלה, כמובן יצא דוגמה חדשה, חוץ מלגרביים ולארנק פתאום לבשה לי דוגמצה, בליל שמה דוגמת רפיס והייתה דומה בדיוק לעז, מה שאת לובשת לא מתאים, איך את קונה כל הבגדים, איך את קונה כל הבגדים, ענתה לי מהר, אני קונה הכל בתשלומים, תשלומים, בתשלומים, הכל דבר בתשלומים, בתשלומים, כל המשכורת הולך למכולת, כל המשכורת הולך למכולת, איי 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 בתשלומים. ואשתי אוהבת לחיות בחובות, תגידו לי מה לעשות, לוויתי ל1,000 לירות, הכל בריבית גם בשטרות, רוצה להחליף הווילונות, גם השולחן וכיסאות, וקנתה איזה ספה, יושנת לבד, אני על רצפה, יושנת לבד ואני על רצפה. למחרת קמתי חולי, הלכתי מהר אצל רופא, בדק אותי ונתן לי זריקות, בסוף ביקש לי 5 לירות. 5 לירות? אל תגזים, אני משלם רק בתשלומים, תשלומים, בתשלומים, הכל דבר בתשלומים.
So he said something about it's going to cost me 5 lirot, 5 liras. And he says, 5 lirot, that's nothing. 5 liras, that's nothing. It's all on payments. Hakol b'tashlumim. Okay. All right. So like I said, in a subsequent session, we will talk a lot more about Mizrahi music and its roots and how it sort of unfolds in Israel, which is actually a very interesting sidebar to the whole story. But this is early. Another example we're going to play from Chana Aharoni. What's interesting about this, Chana Aharoni is another Yemenite singer. Who is and this song is actually about the Ma'abarot, the camps where many Jews from Arabic-speaking countries were placed because they were not given priority in terms of receiving apartments. To this day, by the way, you should know there's a lot of resentment in Israeli society about this period in Israel's history in the 50s when somehow the Ashkenazim managed to get apartments and many of the Mizrahim did not, and so they lived in these transit camps known as Ma'abarot, which were very famously not very great places to live. If you're familiar with probably one of the most famous Israeli movies, it's actually from the early 60s, but it's about this period, called Salach Shabati, which starred Chaim Topol of Le'akat HaNachal, and who became famous, of course, for being Tevye and Fiddler on the Roof. But that movie is about Topol as this immigrant from some Arabic-speaking country, and it's his interactions with the people on the local kibbutz. One of whom happens to be Arik Einstein, also an alum of the Le'akat HaNachal. In fact, it might even be directed by Uri Zohar. It probably is, who's also from the Le'akat HaNachal. I can't remember the directors. Anyway, written by Ephraim Kishon. Who also wrote for the Nachal. Zechariah ben Ezra is the story about the experience in the Ma'abarot. And to some extent, it's actually a thank you to David Ben Gurion. What?
Also directed by Ephraim Kishon.
Oh, directed by Ephraim Kishon. Okay, never mind. So yes, Ephraim Kishon who also wrote for these early groups. Sarusi describes the relationship between Ben Gurion and the Yemenite Jews, who, remember, he brings the Yemenite Jews there on this what's the name of the operation? I can't remember. To bring the Yemenite Jews in the early years,
Magic Carpet.
Operation Magic Carpet, and so Ben Gurion was sort of proud of that, and he later has an interaction with the guy who wrote the song. The music, by the way, is written by Moshe Velensky. What's interesting about this song is that neither the author of the music or the lyrics were Mizrahim, they're Ashkenazim, but they're trying to draw on Yemenite music. Moshe Velensky, who writes the music, used to go to synagogues in Kerem HaTemanim, the Yemenite quarter in Tel Aviv, to go to their synagogues to listen, to pick up like their music, so he can use it to produce, for example, this song. Okay, here we go. Zechariah ben Ezra by Chana Aharoni. This is 1954. Instead of a she says in the winter, there's horrible cold. The summer, it's choking. The heat is choking me. But I don't ask for anything more. This is all everything that I need.
يذكرني حظه יתקיים מה שהבטיח, ובמלך המשיח. הכל כדאי, אם טוב אם רע, נאום זכריה בן עזרא, זכריה בן עזרא. בפוליטיק עוד אין איתם, אין לי מושג כזית, וואלה חירות וואלה מפעם, אנא מחוץ לבית. כי הפורע עלי גזר, זכריה דונוש קולה, את חמורך תוליך ישר, אל תת ימינה או שמאלה. ואנוכי בתום שואל, רמה רבים בניך, לו רק ידעת ישראל, מה טוב אוהליך.
Okay, I got to cut it there because we're running out of time. I just want to play one more special thing. This one actually is a video that is a piece of certainly a piece of Israeli music from the period. One thing that we did not cover was in particular music that comes from Jewish tradition. This is a song that you probably know called Eretz Zavat Chalav Udvash, not performed by Israelis, but performed by, get this, performed by Nina Simone. So in case you haven't seen this, this is really... I'm sorry, that's fantastic. We're going to have to cut it there because we've run out of time. But just in summation, so actually what I think is really interesting about that recording in particular is of course, and there you may know that there are other foreign artists, Americans and others who recorded Israeli music at the time, of course, because Israel was at the time, you might say, much more popular in American culture. The Weavers recorded Tzena Tzena, which is a song from the 1940s, an Israeli song from the 1940s. There are other such examples. I think it's really sort of fascinating slice of American music. They're recording Israeli pieces. So we went today basically through the 1950s. Our next session, which is the first Tuesday in March, is that the 6th, March 6th? Sorry, February. Right, February 6th. We will be covering the 1960s, a time of tremendous, shall we say, diversification in Israeli music, including not only in the Mizrahi area, but also the genesis of Israeli rock and roll. We'll hear the first Israeli rock and roll songs and something from the first Israeli rock and roll album, which I don't want to spoil the surprise, but features a Pittsburgher. That was Josie Katz. From Greenfield. Did anybody know her, by the way? Maybe somebody will not know. She was a member of Chalanot HaGvoim and Will Encounter. That was the first full-length rock and roll album released in Israel. But we'll talk a little bit about that. And lovely listening to all these great tunes with you. Thank you very much, and I will see you soon. Take it easy. Have a good day. And thank you all for coming. Oops.
Thank you. Yeah, we knew 2 of those dances.
Oh, good.
We knew 2. I only knew 1. Which one did you know?
Didn't you want to Erev Shel Shoshanim or something?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. That's right. I forgot that.
Bye.
All right.